In week one, there's a tendency that will actually make TJ Watt pretty easy to neutralize for the Jets if they choose to take advantage. We're talking Jets' keys to victories against the Steelers today on Locked On Jets.
You are Locked On Jets, your daily New York Jets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. This is the Locked On Jets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025, and I'm your host, John B. from GanggreenNation.com. Thanking you so much for making the show your first listen or first watch every day. A big shout out to you everydayers. This is a daily podcast covering the New York Jets with new episodes each day through the week, Monday through Friday. And our episode today is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. On today's show, we are going to offer some keys to victory for the Jets as they open their season this Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to talk about the unveiling of a new look and potentially unique offense. We're going to talk about the Jets' need to make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable in every single way. But we're going to begin by talking about how the Jets need to neutralize a game breaker. And that game breaker is TJ Watt, one of the 2 to 3 best defensive players in the NFL. And it's going to be a challenge for the Jets because TJ Watt typically lines up against the right tackle. At right tackle, the Jets have Armand Bamboo, a very talented young player who could go on to have a very long, productive, and successful career in this league, but a player entering his first NFL game, a rookie. And if you watch Bamboo during the preseason, you saw a lot of good. You saw how the potential exists with him. You saw flashes that suggest that when he puts it all together, he could be a really good player. But you also saw some rookie struggles, which are to be expected with a young player. Tackles in the NFL, with very few exceptions, typically struggle out of the gate. That's just the way it is. It's a difficult position to transition from college to the NFL because in college, you are not facing very sophisticated pass rushers. A lot of the guys you face in college just try and run right past you. They don't even have one pass rushing move. The guys who are really sophisticated in college may have one pass rushing move. And if you can neutralize that, you're in good shape. The players in the NFL, the guys who are starters, typically have at least 2 moves. And if you neutralize that first move, they move on to the second. And a lot of the great ones, they may have 3 or 4. So if you neutralize the first, they go to the second. You go to the second, they move to the third. And sometimes even if you'd stop the third, they go to the fourth. And they'll also use their 2 moves. They'll use their multiple moves to set you up. You know, a guy with a good speed rush and a spin move might break outside, knowing that it'll get you to overset to the outside and leave yourself vulnerable to the spin move inside. TJ Watt is like the ultimate in this. TJ Watt's one of the best players in the NFL at any position, and he is one of the most dangerous pass rushers in the league. But there is one tendency that gives the Jets a chance against TJ Watt. And I want to take you back to last October. That was the night the Jets played in Pittsburgh, Sunday Night Football, Week 6. If you look at the stat sheet that night, TJ Watt had 1 tackle. He was a non-factor in that game. And it was an ugly night for the New York Jets. That was a night where you could argue the season officially went into free fall. The Jets had just traded for Devontae Adams that week. It was Adams' first game with the Jets. That earlier in the day, Hassan Reddick did not play, but the Jets announced that they had reached a deal to end Hassan Reddick's holdout. At one point in the game, the Jets were ahead 15-6, and then the thing just completely snowballed on them. It began with an Aaron Rodgers interception right before the first half ended. But there was one positive, and the Jets neutralized TJ Watt. Now, Todd Downing, who was the Jets offensive coordinator for that game, nobody's going to mistake him for one of the visionary offensive minds in the NFL. But he did something very specific in his game plan that helped the Jets prevent Watt from wrecking the game. Now, the game got wrecked in other ways, but Watt was not the guy who destroyed that game for the Jets. Watt was pretty much a non-factor. Downing told the announcers for that game, our focus is having 4 hands on Watt on every play. So constantly giving Morgan Moses, who was the right tackle at that point for the Jets, help. Sometimes that was a true double team. Sometimes it was just a chip. You know, a tight end or a running back before they released into their route would just give a little shove, try and knock Watt off balance and make him easier for Moses to block. And TJ Watt's a very unique defensive player in a lot of ways. But one of the ways he's unique is that his alignment really does not change. He almost exclusively plays on the left side of the defensive formation, right side of the offensive formation. And when I say almost exclusively, there were only 20 snaps last year where he was not on the left side of the defense, right side of the offense. A lot of the great pass rushers, they'll move around. They'll move from the left side to the right side. On obvious passing downs, they'll even move inside to take advantage of the lack of athleticism guards and centers have in this league relative to tackles. Watt doesn't move. It's a very old school way to play, and part of the reason the great pass rushers move around is it becomes more difficult to game plan against them. You could say we want to double team him nonstop, but if you don't know where the guy's going to line up pre-snap, it's more difficult to build that into plays. Now, offenses in this league have become pretty sophisticated, so they'll have multiple plans depending on where the guy goes before the play. But Watt's actually a pretty easy guy to double team because you know where he's going to be pretty much every snap. There's one snap a game he's not lined up on the left side of the defense, right side of the offense. And while his alignment makes it a challenge when you are having a rookie right tackle play his first game in Armand Bamboo, it also makes it much easier to give that help. And that, I think, was one of the things that really helped the Jets last year when they were able to prevent TJ Watt from really being a factor in this game. Now, there's no question Armand Bamboo is going to need help. If Watt gets one-on-one with him, and I like Armand Bamboo, don't get me wrong, this is not anti-Armand Bamboo talk. I love the pick. I think Armand Bamboo is going to be a really good right tackle for the Jets for a long time. But TJ Watt's going to destroy him if the Jets let him go one-on-one against Bamboo. So the Jets need to give Bamboo plenty of help. Now, you may ask, well, if it's that simple to neutralize TJ Watt, why do teams not double team him nonstop every week? And, there are a couple different answers for that. Number one, I think a lot of coaches are stubborn. A lot of coaches are just set on their own game plans. They won't change it for a unique talent like Watt. You see this. I mean, how many times do you see this when you watch an NFL game with the Jets or some other team where some coach just gets stubborn? They get stuck in their own system. There are also disadvantages. One, it's easy to say just double team Watt. It will be taking things off the table. If you leave a tight end in, you change the mathematics of the passing offense. If a tight end is helping Bamboo with the double team, now you only have 4 receivers against 7 defenders on the back end versus the normal 5 versus 7. Or if even if you chip him, you delay one of the 5 receivers getting into his route, which really limits what that receiver can do on the play. You're making life easier on the defense. The other aspect of this is you're not going to be able to give Olu Fashanu much help on the other side, where he's going to be facing a very talented pass rusher himself in Alex Highsmith. And while there are numerous advantages to the Jets using back-to-back picks on offensive tackles, and I think that the advantages are much greater than the disadvantages, one of the challenges is you're kind of trying to develop 2 players at the same time, at the same position. And both of them probably could use a little bit of seasoning. And both of them could probably use a little bit of help. It's going to be a big ask for Olu Fashanu to go one-on-one against Alex Highsmith in this game without getting much help. But it's for the greater good. The Jets cannot let TJ Watt win this game by himself for the Steelers because TJ Watt's one of the handful of defensive players who can just take a game over and prevent you from having any shot of victory. The Jets' game plan really needs to be focused on taking TJ Watt out of the game. And because of this one tendency, it's going to be much easier to do that when you face Watt than it normally is against a pass rusher of his caliber. Why does TJ Watt always line up on the left side of the defense, right side of the offense? I've tried to look into it. I haven't been able to find an answer. I mean, it might just be that he's comfortable lining up in the same spot. And when you get the results TJ Watt does, I mean, who are we to question that? But the Jets did show there was a blueprint last year. There's not many things you could look at in 2024 the Jets coaching staff did well. There's not many aspects of game plans for 2024 you could say gives the Jets a blueprint for how 2025 could be a success. But that one night in Pittsburgh in October shows that there is a way to slow down one of the best pass rushers in the league for the New York Jets. And they certainly will need it with him facing a rookie in his first NFL game. Now, here on the Locked On Jets podcast, we'll flip to the other side of the ball. The Jets are facing a quarterback they will be very familiar with, Aaron Rodgers, who was the Jets quarterback last year. And the key to victory for the Jets defense, all about making Rodgers uncomfortable. And there's a way they can do it. I'll tell you what it is as we continue here on this Tuesday edition of Locked On Jets. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season's here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you have not joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoffs on September 4th, now's the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew, no problem. Join a public league, the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Thank you so much for making Locked On Jets your first listen or first watch every day. And a big shout out to you everydayers. This is a daily podcast covering the New York Jets with new episodes each day through the week, Monday through Friday. The Jets take on the Steelers this Sunday at MetLife Stadium. It is week one of the 2025 season. It has been a long offseason, and we have seen a lot of changes this offseason. And the biggest change for the New York Jets comes at the quarterback position, where the guy who played quarterback last year, Aaron Rodgers, is gone. And he has gone to the week one opponent, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jets will be facing their former teammate in this season opener. And we know a lot about Aaron Rodgers. We know a lot about his tendencies. We know about a lot about what he likes and does not like in the offense. I think more than anything, what the last 2 years have taught us is that Aaron Rodgers is very much a creature of habit on offense. He wants to have trust in the receivers he's got out there. And that's why, he leaned on Devontae Adams so much. It's why he leaned on Allen Lazard. It's why the Jets 2 years ago otherwise inexplicably brought in Randall Cobb, even though Cobb was clearly at the end of his career. This group the Pittsburgh Steelers have at wide receiver is kind of an odd match for him because Rodgers wants his receivers to run very precise patterns. The Steelers traded for DK Metcalf this offseason. DK Metcalf brings a lot of skills to the table, but he's never been a guy who's been known as a great route runner. And then after that, the Steelers have, a couple of young guys, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III, young guys who are very fast, young guys who bring a lot of physical attributes to the table. But Rodgers is famous for avoiding young receivers. And there's a reason for this. Rodgers wants his receivers to read defenses with him. And he wants his receivers to adjust routes as he reads the coverage. So like a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, the best way I could describe this, most quarterbacks in the NFL, if their first read isn't there, they go to the second read. With a quarterback of Rodgers' caliber, with the way he sees the game, the way he thinks, if his first read isn't open, he may say, well, that's not open, but if my receiver breaks left, he will be open. So he expects his first receiver to break left, even if that's not the original route. So a bit of an odd mix here. We also know that Rodgers really relies on timing routes. And a year ago, Rodgers became much more reluctant to throw the deep ball. And, I think there were a lot of things that went into that. I mean, it's clear that he had trouble with his body holding up last year. As you get into your 40s as a quarterback, those hits that, you used to be able to bounce back from pretty easily become more difficult to bounce back from. And Rodgers, I think, was playing less than 100% most of the season. And that's just life after 40 as a National Football League quarterback. So Rodgers, who used to be like one of the premier deep ball throwers in the NFL, became kind of like a check down artist last year. He became a guy who just really tried to get the ball out quickly at the first sign of a pass rush. So, the expert analysis is the Jets need to get to the quarterback. That's obvious. I think you could say that every single week about every single team. So it's not really like great analysis to say the Jets need to rush the passer. But I think that the Jets coverage scheme in this game needs to do everything in its power to make Rodgers uncomfortable because he's already not familiar with these receivers. I don't think he has a ton of trust in any of these wide receivers the Pittsburgh Steelers have. So I think the Jets, and this I think aligns with the type of defense the Jets are going to run anyway. I think that the Jets need to play a lot of press coverage. They need to disrupt the wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. In the NFL, you are allowed to make contact with a receiver the first 5 yards of the route. And I think the Jets need to do that a lot because I expect there's going to be a lot of short passing with Pittsburgh. I expect that Rodgers is going to look to get the ball out quickly. And those are precise timing routes. They're precise timing routes for anybody, but they're especially precise timing routes for Rodgers. And if you can obstruct the receiver, prevent him from getting to the spot on time, that's where you can throw Rodgers off, particularly when he's not super comfortable with the receivers he's got. Now, I think the Jets in this game should make sure Sauce Gardner is playing one-on-one against DK Metcalf on almost every play. A year ago, the Jets had DJ Reed, and DJ Reed was a very athletic corner. He was maybe a little undersized, but he was very athletic. He was not afraid to get a little physical. DJ Reed is gone. Now the number 2 corner the Jets have is Brandon Stephens. And Sauce Gardner just got a big contract extension for a reason. The Jets are expecting Sauce Gardner to be a difference maker. And at the cornerback position in this league, you are a difference maker when you can follow the other team's number 1 receiver around the field all game, whether he goes left, whether he goes right, whether he goes into the slot. That is your man. And Sauce Gardner's best attributes are his ability to play press coverage, his ability to use his length to disrupt wide receivers off the line of scrimmage. I think we can presume that to the extent Rodgers is going to have a preferred target early in the season, it's going to be Metcalf. You want your number 1 corner on him. And here's the other thing. I'm not sure the Jets can give Sauce a ton of safety help. I think the safety help is going to have to be shaded toward Brandon Stephens' side because Stephens is not a super fast guy. And the Steelers have speed at the wide receiver position. 2 young guys, Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III, who bring a lot of speed to the table. And Stephens is a guy who projects, another guy who big. He projects as a press corner. If he can jam these guys at the line of scrimmage, I think he can really disrupt them. I think he can throw them off their routes. But if these guys get past him, it's going to be trouble because I don't know that Stephens necessarily has the catch-up speed he needs. And when you play press coverage is kind of a risky coverage because essentially what you're trying to do is you're trying to contact the guy at the line of scrimmage. If you do that, you're in great shape, but not always easy to do. Now, going up against younger receivers who are less experienced, who maybe don't have the greatest set of releases against press coverage to try and get past it, maybe Stephens will have success, but it's inevitable. At some point, you're going to miss your jam. And when you miss your jam, the receiver is probably going to get open. That means you got to have help behind you. It means you got to help. The other guys on the defense are going to have to be able to provide you with aid when it is required. So I don't think the Jets, I think one of the reasons the Jets gave Sauce Gardner that contract is they're going to trust him to hold up one-on-one against the other team's best receiver on most weeks without a lot of help. It is, for lack of a better way to describe it, going to be similar to the Darrelle Revis role in Rex Ryan's offense. What the Jets did with Darrelle Revis under Rex was Revis followed the other team's best receiver around. And it was Revis one-on-one versus that guy. And the Jets just loaded the other side of the field with defenders to help whoever the number 2 corner was, whether it was Lito Shepard in 2009 or Antonio Cromartie after that. And it was a defensive approach that led to great success with the New York Jets. Aaron Glenn's defense is going to function that way. Robert Saleh's defense did not. Robert Saleh's defense was a lot of rush for, play zone. Aaron Glenn's defense is going to be different. Aaron Glenn's defense is going to ask these corners to hold up, particularly Sauce Gardner one-on-one against the elite receivers in this league. This is going to be his first test, but more than covering these guys, the Jets also need to disrupt these guys off the line of scrimmage, throw off Aaron Rodgers' timing routes, throw off his internal clock, throw off what he's expecting. Because if you can do that, we've seen this last year, that you can frustrate Rodgers and you can prevent the offense from having a big day. Now, here on the Locked On Jets podcast, we're going to turn our attention to the Jets offense. There's been a lot of criticism based on what we saw for the Jets in preseason on how their offense is going to look. But I got to say, I don't think we saw the true Jets offense during the exhibition games. I think the offense that we're going to see is going to be unique and dynamic. Sunday will be our first look. We'll discuss as we continue here on this Tuesday edition of Locked On Jets. Today's episode of Locked On Jets is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching the Jets or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick and easy and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. Let's take a look. Jets Steelers. Steelers 2.5 point road favorites according to FanDuel right now. And this game only has an over-under of 37.5 points. So not expecting big things out of the offense. Well, FanDuel is the place to get in on the action. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Hey, Locked On Jets fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card from Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now by using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cent per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. This is the Locked On Jets podcast here on this Tuesday. Jets and Steelers, week 1. The game is Sunday afternoon at MetLife Stadium. The long offseason is behind us. We're going to get back to real Jets football, the regular season opener. On today's show, we're talking about keys to victory for the New York Jets in this season opening game. Let's talk about the Jets offense. Now, during the preseason, the Jets first team offense in the first exhibition game went down the field and scored a touchdown. Things were not as smooth in week 2 against the New York Giants. Then week 3, the first team offense did not play at all. I don't think that we saw the true Jets offense in any of these games, though. As is frequently the case in preseason, lots of vanilla play calls, not the sort of stuff you're going to use in the regular season. In the regular season, you're game planning. You're trying to figure out, how do I create the best possible matchups? My best players versus their worst players, and how do I stop their best players from destroying the game? We talked a little bit about that in the first segment, how the Jets can neutralize TJ Watt. It's actually easy if you're willing to make other sacrifices. But how did the Jets move the ball against the Pittsburgh Steelers? I have a couple thoughts on this. Now, number one, what I'm about to say is counterintuitive. I know a lot of people will disagree when they first hear this, but hear me out. I think the Jets should come out throwing the ball in this game. Now, the Jets are going to be primarily a run team. I expect the Jets to be one of the run-heaviest teams in the NFL. I know that. You know that. The Pittsburgh Steelers know that. The Pittsburgh Steelers are likely to start this game by selling out against the run. So my question to you is, knowing that Pittsburgh is going to load the box, knowing that Pittsburgh is going to do everything in its power to stop the run, in the first 2 series, do you want to see the Jets run the ball 5 times into loaded boxes and then maybe throw once on a 3rd and long? Or do you want to see the Jets try and exploit the weaknesses in the Steeler defense? Because when you sell out against the run, it becomes easier to throw the football. So there's another advantage here. Because of the way the schedule currently works in the NFL, you get a bye week before week 1. There is 2 weeks between the final exhibition game and the first regular season game. So there's an extra week to practice, to build your script. And in the NFL, teams typically script their first handful of plays. Some teams it's 15, some teams it's less, some teams it's more. But you typically know what the first couple plays you're going to run in the game are. And part of the reason you script is you have a chance to practice them consistently in the lead up to the game and get them to a point where you're running them at a really high level. With the extra week to prepare for this game, now you have even more practice time to really get these plays perfect. So I think there's an opportunity here that won't exist most weeks for the Jets to get a handful of early passing plays where they'll be able to execute them at a really high level because they've been able to practice them for 2 weeks. But going deeper, the regular Jets offense, I think it's going to be a very unique offense because it's going to be so run heavy in general. And I think it will be easier to run if you have success early in the game throwing the ball, because at some point the Steelers will have to back off a little bit. One of the reasons teams tend to be pass happy in the NFL, and one of the reasons that passing offenses tend to be more efficient than run offenses, is that the passing game gives you more options. You have 5 receivers who go into a pattern, and you can threaten the entire field. You could throw the ball to 1 of 5 guys. You can go deep, you can go short, you can go left, you can go right. It's a challenging thing to defend the pass. The run is typically much easier to defend. because there's only one guy who gets the ball. It's the running back. And, he's either going inside or outside. The Jets have a chance to build a really unique run game because they have Justin Fields at quarterback, a guy who, by all accounts, is a very talented runner. In the Jets offense, there's 2, maybe 3 guys who could get the ball. You could have packages where Breece Hall and Braylon Allen are on this field at the same time. You could run a fake to one. You could run a fake to another. I think the Jets should also look to utilize the wide receivers in the run game a bit, call some end arounds. The point is that you're going to have a lot of different options on a given play. And sometimes the options will be designed. Sometimes it'll be a Fields read. The Fields, you typically in a play where the quarterback has the option to run, you'll leave one defender unblocked. And if that defender looks like he's preparing to take a quarterback run, quarterback hands it off. If it looks like he's going to defend the handoff, the quarterback fakes the handoff and then runs to the vacated spot where that defender should have been. The Jets can add in like a third option. Sometimes what you can do if you have a really sophisticated run game is you could leave 2 defenders unblocked and you have 3 options. One fake handoff, maybe a pitch along the way, maybe a second fake handoff, and the quarterback there are 3 different ways the ball can go. It's a chance to make the run game more diverse. You throw in the opportunity to maybe have some end arounds to Arian Smith. You can force the defense to defend the entire field, left to right. You may not be able to stretch the field vertically. You can't force them to defend the deep part of the field, but you can force them to defend sideline to sideline in a way most defenses are not prepared to do. And this is going to be the ticket for the Jets this year on offense. We know that most weeks you're not going to be able to practice the script to perfection the way you will in week 1. You're not going to be able to come out throwing the ball the way the opportunity will present itself week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But creating a run game that challenges the defense, that forces the defense to think, that throws a lot of eye candy at the defense. Is there going to be a fake left and then you're going to run right? It's going to put these things in defenders' heads. Defenders will know that they have to stay home and man their gap assignments. Another aspect of the Jets offense that I think we need to see is plenty of motion. One of the reasons you use motion in the run game, especially if you motion a tight end, is the way defensive play calls work is defenders are assigned gaps, which are the space between 2 blockers, whether it's a tight end and the tackle guard center. When you motion the tight end, you change what the gaps are. The defense then kind of has to shift accordingly. You guys have to slide over. And sometimes if you throw a really complex motion at them, maybe two tight ends who both move at the same time, you really mess with the defense's assignment. Somebody doesn't move to the right gap and you open a hole wide open. These are the ways the Jets are going to have to take advantage. A conventional run game is not going to work for the New York Jets because they just need to run the ball too much. They need to create opportunities in the run game. They need to put stress. The Jets run game needs to put stress on the defense the way passing games for most teams put stress on the defense. The Jets can't come out and run, inside zone or just the normal pull the guard. They can run those plays occasionally, but this run game is going to have to be very diverse. And I think the Jets know this. I don't understand why you would go out and sign a quarterback like Justin Fields unless you were going to put in a very unique offense. And the fact the offense is going to be unique, that could make the Jets difficult to play because you're not used to facing an offense like this. The Jets may be a difficult team to prepare for because they're going to run an offense that's so unconventional that does things like this. And this will be our first look at it. And you hope that the Jets are able to execute it at a high level. If they can, maybe they can pull off the upset week 1 against the Steelers. That's all for today's episode. This has been the Locked On Jets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day is our motto. As always, if you enjoyed the show, hit the subscribe button where you're watching or listening so that you'll never miss an episode. If you enjoyed the show and are listening on a podcast source, give it a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube and enjoy the show, give this episode a big thumbs up. It helps us out and helps other Jets fans find the podcast. Enjoy your Tuesday, everybody, and please send in your mailbag questions. Tomorrow we are going to have our weekly mailbag show. I can't wait to answer your questions. Talk to you then.